And we're alive. Hey everybody, welcome back to Conscientious Omnivore. Been a long time since I've done a live stream. I'm very happy to have two wonderful guests with me here today. You guys should hopefully see the screen and see Logan and Chris on the screen with me. Hopefully. We're trying something new, so it's we were working the technology out for a little while. Don't know if anybody will be in already, but hopefully if somebody comes in, just maybe type in the chat, make sure you guys can still hear us and see us and all that good stuff. And yeah, we'll see what's what. So welcome, guys.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. I mean, considering how crazy the world is at the moment, I got nothing really serious to complain about. A lot of crazy stuff going on, especially like in the U.S. right now. You know, you kind of think for a while like nothing can get worse than this pandemic, but then it seems like, you know, there's fire on top of the gasoline or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw some nice videos where people were trying to give police officers Pepsis, like that commercial, you know, like because if there's a riot going on and you give a police officer a Pepsi, then like everybody stops rioting and then they start celebrating, you know, like that Pepsi commercial says. Turns out that's not real, right? So these people were trying to give cops Pepsis and they didn't even take the Pepsi. They wouldn't even drink it. So commercial's a lie.
I would kind of imagine that you might be running the risk of getting shot, especially in the U.S. with the way the cops behave there. Hey, Luis and Jen. Nice. Welcome. Can you guys hear us okay? And can you see all three of us on the screen? We're trying something new here with the technology, so just want to make sure that everybody's on the screen and visible and audible.
Yeah, I think I just checked it. It seems like we're all visible and audible,
Nice.
so it's all good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, Chris, like, you see any unrest, anything going on in your area, or things like pretty okay?
Oh well, we had we had some riots last weekend, and haven't kept up. It's hard to keep up because like there's hundreds of cities with riots now. It's hard to keep up with the news, but we had a bunch of arrests and we had a curfew last weekend. But I don't know what's going on today. We got this tropical storm nearby and everybody's inside now, so that might be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of scary. I mean, I've been kind of avoiding the news, honestly. I've never felt like this before. The past few months, and that actually kind of goes to explaining why I haven't really been doing much live streaming. I pretty much got off Twitter, and I just have been almost like social media distancing myself. Like, I just feel overwhelmed sometimes. Like right now there's so much stuff going on and everything just seems really kind of crazy, and it was getting too much. And I've been really busy with like working on my house and working in the garden, and I have like the kids home because everything's, you know, homeschooling now. So it's just like, you know, my wife's trying to do the school stuff, I'm trying to build the house, like I'm just like overwhelmed. I can't keep up with everything, so I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Well, I've been doing a lot of gardening.
That's good. Nice. I think if anything, like with the pandemic, like I think there's a lot of people who are getting into gardening now that probably weren't before.
Well, there's more people buying vegan products.
Yep. If you think about it, like most of the stuff that you buy, like that are staples and dried goods and stuff, those are vegan by default. Most stuff. So all of your grains, all of your dried, you know, cereals and stuff that lasts for a long time or lasts without refrigeration, like that's gonna be, you know, the vast majority is gonna be vegan. It's gonna be all plant-based stuff. So we got that going for us.
Yeah, just need a few more pandemics to transform everybody to vegan.
Yeah. How about you, Logan? What's going on up north?
Well, me and Chris talked about, you know, all the news stuff yesterday, and that was like quite a long stream. But I did learn a couple things today. I sent you links on them. One thing was that chicken's a superfood. That's the first thing I learned. Second thing is that meat is actually going to save the planet.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to the other scene now, so we can share my screen, and hopefully this works. We'll see. please, someone in the chat confirm that you guys can see the screen when I switch like this. You should hopefully.
I'll look on the screen
Okay,
here.
cool.
There's a few minute delay, or not a minute, maybe like 30-second delay before I could see. So
Okay.
In the meantime, I just learned that the biggest GoFundMe now is his name George Floyd?
Yes.
Is that his name?
Yep.
Yeah, so the biggest GoFundMe now of history is the George Floyd GoFundMe. Do you guys know what the second biggest GoFundMe is? Because it's almost funny.
No.
The second biggest GoFundMe is to build a wall, and that's 25 million.
Goodness. Jeez.
So George Floyd's first. Second is build a wall, and then third is actually like a COVID fund for Italy, I think. So those are the top 3 GoFundMes of existence.
Okay. 2 of them make sense. Crazy. So I don't know. Hopefully people can see on my screen the lovely website
I could see it.
from
I can see it now.
chicken.canada.ca. New study confirms chicken as the latest superfood. It's got to be very reliable because it's, from the Canadian Poultry website.
Yeah, I
legit.
didn't even look. I haven't even looked at this yet, but I'll look at it now. What is the actual study? Does it say?
So it says.
I found. Oh, can I read the name of the study here?
Yeah. Go
So
ahead.
this is great. The name it's a new scientific study. It says from the chicken farmers of Canada.
Chicken is the new superfood. And then it says the study, the first of its kind in 20 years, provides an updated look at how chicken has changed nutritionally, given many advancements in how the birds are bred, raised, fed, and processed. Today's chicken is fundamentally safer, healthier, and more convenient than ever before. I'm pretty sure it was convenient already, except for the chicken. From the person's perspective, chicken has been convenient for a long time. I don't know.
Well, here's something interesting I just found out right away. Is how when in articles they have the article about the study, and then you read it, and it's an article, so you have to check the study. I clicked on the link that said new scientific study.
Yep.
It took me to another page on chicken.ca on the same web page, and so it's a funding. It's a study by themselves. Like they made the study.
And then they made a news report on their self.
On the study that they, and It's not even really a study. I don't think it just says. It's just basically telling you what's in chicken, like what vitamins and stuff.
Oh my god, this is terrible. But remember, here's a fantastic fact here, Logan. A breast of chicken cooked with the skin on and then removed has less fat and calories and more moisture than a skinless breast.
Wow. I mean, that's factual. That's like if you took anything that had skin on it and then you removed the skin, it would be less of the thing that it was.
Yes.
Because you took some away. Yes. So that's how that works.
This is amazing.
It's like subtracting.
Oh my goodness.
But so I don't know. There's not much to this one.
No.
But
debunked.
the next one that I sent you is amazing, and it's I think it's an article by a guy who's on the carnivore diet, and he's gonna let you know why meat's gonna save the world. So that's a good one.
Wow. Well, it's an op-ed, so yeah, it must be true. Somebody has an opinion.
Yeah. That's the second link. I don't know if you want to share that one.
Yep. I'm showing it now.
Okay.
Is there any particular aspect that you want me to highlight here, or?
Okay, yeah, let me bring it up so I could read this one, because this one's great too.
It starts off with an op-ed in the New York Times. The end of meat is here. The author claims that if you care about the working poor, about racial justice, and about climate change, you have to stop eating animals. And then this person says, this isn't quite right. When the food pyramid
look
was
at the
released,
look at the wording right there. He didn't say it's not right. Because that would be like the way you would normally say like something isn't right. You just go, well, that's not right. It's not quite right.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Well, it means that he's probably going to nitpick on some like tiny little detail that may or may not be true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I did read this part. So he talks about the food pyramid was released in 1970, right? And then he basically says that since 1970, people have got sicker. And then he says it's because people followed the food pyramid,
Mm.
right? So do you really think that 100% of people follow the food pyramid to a T?
Oh, right.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening, first of all. Second of all, there's a lot of processed foods in the food pyramid. And nobody's, he's basically saying that because the food pyramid is like 70% plants or something. He has a number here. I forget where it is, but he says it's like 70% plants in the food pyramid and only like 30% animal products. Therefore, plants are making people sick. Oh, here it is right here. Yeah, 70%.
I've got it shared. Yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
So
So
he's a beef eating carnivore guy. There was a line above there where he was saying, "I only eat beef." So
there's a lot of assumptions here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of assumptions because he's assuming that, like, the 70% here is like what a vegan diet, like somebody on a vegan diet would recommend that is healthy. Like obviously whole plant foods is what people are recommending, and if you look at the food pyramid, it's like cereals and breads and all these things that aren't. You could eat white bread or something, and that counts on the food pyramid as whatever breads and cereals or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't count as like healthy plants that you should be eating anyways. And then that's if people even followed the food pyramid's recommendations, which they don't anyways. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
Wasn't it updated many times? The food pyramid was, right?
Yeah.
I know different countries have their versions of food pyramids too.
Yeah, they do make changes to those every few years. I mean, or probably like every decade or so. But yeah, it's basically just one kind of illogical leap to the next. Because basically he starts off by saying that, red meat consumption per capita is down almost 30%. So now we have the sickest population in the history of the world. Again, the correlation does not equal causation. Like maybe red meat consumption is down by 30%, but every other kind of meat consumption is probably up by way more. So I think people are just kind of realizing that, red meat is just really bad for you because of a whole number of things. And so people have it in their mind that you should avoid that. And but they're probably replacing it with other animal products, or at least most people are anyway.
Or they're drinking, and then on top of the animal products, they're eating a ton of processed foods and like drinking Pepsi and Coke and all these things. And nobody's recommending, hey, you should eat these things for health. So he's basically equating the food pyramid to veganism, which is two totally different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you can have there's a food pyramid, which I can drop in the chat link now if you want to share it.
Sure.
And I'm putting the link in now. I mean, I'm just going through them. Everyone I click on is different, but most of them have this at the very top of the food pyramid. You've got a section for fats, sugars, salts, and sweets, and it shows 5% of your intake to be cupcakes, donuts, and pancakes or something. So that's your top 5%. And
Red
of course, it's based on the four food group paradigm, which is a bunch of junk from the start. Some of them have grains on the bottom. Some of them have vegetables on the bottom. And the one I just put the link to, that's called the healthy food pyramid with all the donuts on it.
And look, it's got 20% from meat, fish, and milk and eggs. I mean, think about that. That's insane.
Yeah, and even I would contest even the bottom rung, even the 40% grains.
It starts off with bread, pasta, and cereals. It doesn't start off with like barley, rice, stuff like that, which would be healthier. They start off with all these processed things, and they're putting that as 40%. So I would certainly think that is not a good idea.
I would put vegetables and fruits on the bottom.
Yep. Yeah, so it's interesting. And I think
so even if you do follow it, then you're still going to... Of course you're going to be unhealthy if you follow it, but people aren't even following this.
Yep.
Yeah, we didn't even get to the part yet where...
Yeah, people
we didn't get to the part yet where he's going to save the world, though.
Oh, yeah. What does he do to get around the idea that it takes more land and more water and more everything to feed red meat?
Well, one of his amazing points that he brings up here is that so approximately 75% of calories around the globe comes from plant foods. But then he also says there's been dozens of studies debunking the claim that red meat causes disease. And then he says this paper reviewed randomized controlled trials that evaluated red meat's effect on cancer and cardiovascular outcomes. And there's no links between heart disease and cancer. And then he also says that 19 BMJ researchers called for us to retract guidance on reducing saturated fats.
Was this the one that was in the news where all the people from like reasonable and real doctors were upset about it?
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, so that's probably that one, but he does have a link to dozens of studies. Actually, it's just a link to an article. So, no, it's not. As he doesn't actually have a link to dozens of studies. I take that. Oh, actually, there is. It's an article about dozens of studies, and one of them says this study was buried 40 years ago. Buried that one. It's a conspiracy. And then, yeah. I don't know. These aren't full studies either. These are just little weird things, but we could check those out another time. But I'm sure it's groundbreaking evidence.
Oh, I'm sure.
Instead, there's no link between cholesterol, cancer, and heart disease.
Red meat, cancer, and heart disease. Yeah.
Right. So right off the top, that should draw a red flag. We know the vegan diet is the only diet not associated with being overweight, and that on average, any other major diet type that contains meat is linked with obesity, which right there's a good link. I mean, and then you have cholesterol is also linked with both cancer and heart disease.
Absolutely.
Among other things.
Hopefully the stream's working correctly because some people are saying it's buffering lots and lagging and all sorts of stuff.
Ooh, sorry guys.
But I think the audio's working fine. It's just the picture's freezing occasionally. But
Okay.
it'd be fine.
Do you want to move on? Or do you want to keep going through this one?
Well, I mean, last year's Pure study of 140,000 individuals from 18 countries revealed the following. Animal protein is associated with lower risk of mortality, saturated fat associated with lower risk of CVD. The highest fat intake is associated with 20% lower risk of death. I mean, these are all just stunning facts.
I'm pretty sure this Pure study was the one that you had a bunch of debunking from like Mike the Vegan and several other like vegan doctors, and I think maybe even the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine with Dr. Neil Barnard. I'm pretty sure this is the one they took apart because what they did was they kind of looked at like data in a weird way that like skewed all the findings. Like what they did was I think they looked at countries that were like extremely poor and people were like really like undernourished, and then what they found was that the rich people in those countries like had better health outcomes. But again, you can't say that it's because they were eating more meat. It's like if you were rich in like this really poor country, you might be eating more meat than somebody else who's like basically like starving, and then your health outcomes are better because you have better access to medical care, you have better access to school, clean water, et cetera, et cetera. So like you might still have better overall health outcomes than somebody who's extremely poor. Like, but that doesn't mean that diet is responsible for your better health outcome necessarily.
Well, I mean, this guy says plants aren't the superfood that they're made out to be because they're lacking in all sorts of nutrients. One of them is creatine. Another one's carnosine. These are all important. You're going to have iron, vitamin B6, B12, zinc, DHA deficiencies. You're going to have depression, gut disorders.
Yeah, here I am.
I mean,
I'm got it on the screen now too. The ALA, EPA, DHA conversion.
and then he gets into the environment thing at the bottom, telling you that, cows are the answer to, having nice grass and not having soil erosion from dirty plants.
Unbelievable,
And
man. It's like the same retired, like rehashed, tired excuses that all the typical anti-vegan carnivore spouting nonsense. It's the same stuff.
Where'd you get your taurine from today?
I'm pretty sure my body made anything that I need.
Oh, I got mine from a Red Bull, so I'm okay.
I don't know.
I'm
Let's
sure it
move
wasn't.
on.
All right.
Next one you sent me was the twins. Identical twins test plant-based versus meat-based diet, and the vegan diet wins.
Yeah, so this one is for Bart K because he wants a twin study. So there's these two twins that one went on a meat-eating diet and one went on a vegan diet. And they say the vegan did better, but it doesn't even look like, it's like the best study, but that's what they say. So I don't know. That's for Bart K because he likes twins.
And it's a case study, right?
I don't even think it's a study. I don't even know what it is.
It's just two twins that went on a 12-week diet challenge on their YouTube channel. I'm just reading it now. It's great. Introducing the vegan diet versus the meat diet 12-week challenge. The Turner twins explained that they worked out together at the gym, on the track, and on their bikes, and measured their body fat and biomarkers at the beginning of the 12-week diet experiment and reported on their results in Men's Health magazine, UK.
I mean, Men's Health is pretty accurate, so we can.
I'm sure they have no conflicts of interest.
So we can then, because that one's not a real study, we'll throw that one out, and meat will save the world because this guy had a dozen legit studies. So
Yep.
our meat's winning.
But I don't know if you guys can see on the screen now, but the two twins are doing push-ups, like one on top of the other guy. So like one guy's doing a push-up and then the other guy's doing a push-up on top of that guy. So
Which
it
one's
be
the
legit.
bottom?
I don't know. Look, it must be legit. Like this is science. That's science. Two guys doing push-ups on top of each other. That's science. You can't argue that.
I noticed the internet has been sharing that around like it is a legit study, but it's just a Men's Health article. So people are like, "Look at this study that I've seen." People sharing and like it's Men's Health.
Yeah, it's two guys who went on a 12-week diet challenge.
Yeah, but the vegan won. So there you go.
Yes, let's take any kind of victory we can, right? But no, I think you're right, Logan. Like when you see this kind of stuff, it actually does kind of, in a way, like weaken the message. I think because we shouldn't be using this as a kind of like a gotcha, because it's really weak. I agree. Like I mean, just two guys doing a 12-week challenge. Like who knows what they were really doing? Who knows where they really were? Like okay, they had some of their own measurements and stuff, but like who cares? I don't know. But
I mean, Mr. K, can we put this in the what is it called? The anecdotal book of information?
Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, it was done on a YouTube channel. That's like the highest, hierarchy of.
File it away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Filed. Done.
Apparently, there's this big, book of anecdotes that they're saving up, and I don't know when it's going to be released.
I'm sure the publishers are just lining up. They're probably fighting over it right now, Chris. Like
they're working on it.
Yeah. Who can report on it first? All right, I got the next one shared here, Logan. This one is from The Beat, and it says 7 ways you'll feel better after going plant-based, from energy to mood.
So I was going to ask you guys if these 7 things applied to you guys when you went vegan.
Okay, first I'll read them, okay? Because I don't know if you can see them, Chris, but I'll read them. The first one, it says you'll feel happier. Do you want to do them one by one, or do you want me to read through them all?
Sure, we can go one by one. Sure.
Okay. You'll feel
So do
happier. I definitely felt happier. How about you guys?
Yeah, clear conscience, just more aware in general. Um, you can comfortably watch where your food's procured. Um, yeah, less guilt. I mean, you don't before you know much about vegan diets, you're not fully aware of really the whole process. You don't not fully appreciating the process by which the animal products get to you.
Yeah. A long time ago, I saw a quote. It said something to the effect. I'm probably going to butcher the quote, so apologies to whoever did the original one. But it was something along the lines of, "There's no finer pillow than a clear conscience," or something like that. Like, basically, like, yeah, you can sleep easy at night. And I think that kind of just really applies and sums it up. How about you, Logan? Did you feel better, happier?
Yeah, I think this year I feel a lot better than like previous years, and I've been vegan for 5 years, so that says a lot. But I feel like when I was a dumb teenager, I was pretty happy too, because ignorance is bliss, and you just go around doing whatever the hell you want. And being an adult's kind of hard, but this year was a very good year, and I feel very happy. So
Nice.
it's all good.
Nice. Number 2.
That's not.
Sorry,
It's not
Chris,
even
go ahead.
talking about the physiological aspects when we talk about feeling better. So I'm not taking any medication since going vegan. I haven't had the debilitating colds or flus that I had before going vegan. So there's not those random acquiring the flu that's going to kind of knock you out for several days. There's not that threat hanging over you. And then just generally not feeling as lethargic, a little bit more energy in general, complexion clears up, digestion is better. Even probably one of the more noticeable things is better airflow through the nasal passages. And so I'm sleeping better because of that.
Yeah, Chris, I think you're hitting on some of the other ones here, because number 2 was you'll have more energy. So you've just confirmed that one. I definitely have more energy. Like, I find that I recover a lot better from sports too. So like after long runs, things that normally I would have been sore for 3-4 days or something, I'm usually after about a day and a half, I'm fine. Even when I've done like my big ultra relay race, ran 110K. 2 days later, I was out doing a light recovery jog, and I felt pretty okay. Like. So, I don't know. I definitely think it's a lot to do with the diet. How about you, Logan? More energy?
Yeah, what's weird is like I used to take naps. Like I haven't taken naps since I went vegan. And then also like when it is time to sleep, I don't have any trouble falling asleep, which is maybe before I'd like, toss and turn or whatever and not be able to sleep properly. But I also ran like the furthest I've ever ran multiple times since I went vegan, and just keep bettering that as well too. And I used to run when I ate meat, and I never was able to go that far. So, I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot right there. And then I just feel I don't want to say anything stupid like brain fog and use a carnist word that makes no sense, but I feel like everything is like, as soon as you start getting sleepy, I don't know, what is brain fog? When you get sleepy and you're like, oh, my brain's not working? Like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's like a food coma, I think. Like, that's what I think of when I hear brain fog. But I always got that after eating too much, like, animal products. Like, you'd have, like, a big, Thanksgiving Day feast or something, and you eat all this turkey and, like, all this, like, cheese and everything like that. That's when you feel like, oh, I got to go take a nap. Like, because you're just so bloated and you feel like you're just going to die. Like, you got to go lay down.
Yeah, you know what's weird? What's weird is, like, it's because of, like, the tryptophan, they say. But then if you look at other foods, like turkey has lower tryptophan than a lot of other meats. So it's like they blame Thanksgiving, but you get that sluggish feeling more from other meats than you would from turkey. And I forget which ones specifically, maybe steak or something. I don't know. And then there's a lot of things that get weird, like bananas. Somehow they associate that with high potassium when there's so many things that are higher in potassium. What's another? There's so many things that are just kind of like, they're kind of myths.
Yeah.
I just had one in my head. Brain fog.
Well, the next one I can definitely speak to. This one, it says you'll protect your ticker. So this is basically all the, the less saturated fat and cholesterol. You're gonna have a, better heart, healthy, blood profile and what have you. I can definitely speak to this. I cut my cholesterol in half basically after about a year of a vegan diet. So I wasn't like super high cholesterol, but like it was definitely kind of on the upper end of normal. And I think it was 189 for a total. So it was like getting close to that, like, 200-ish mark where you might want to start, even according to like most conventional doctors, you kind of want to watch what you're eating. And yeah, I mean, I basically cut my cholesterol down way, way, way down. And I just feel better. Like my cardio has definitely gotten better, like running, biking, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's noticeable.
Yeah.
So
One thing. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've monitored I didn't do a before and after cholesterol, but I did do a cholesterol reading after going vegan. But at the time, I was doing a lot of coconut. But even with the coconut on the vegan diet, I still had normal, like low normal cholesterol, but I wasn't satisfied because the average vegan had a little lower cholesterol than I did at the time. And I don't remember the number, but I wasn't satisfied. So I cut out the coconut, so I'm sure, which I had a coconut milkshake like 2 hours before my reading, but I also know that my blood pressure has dropped. I have done it before and after the blood pressure, and I continue to do blood pressure checks and heart rate variability, which for my age are in the healthy range. And my heart rate is too.
Yeah. My blood pressure came down too. Because I think I always had kind of the standard, whatever it is. I think it's like 120/80 or something like that. I have to check.
Yeah, they call that the normal. Yeah, but that's the high.
It's actually
normal.
high. Yeah. And I think
they call it get your blood pressure down to 120/80, but they don't tell you that's the upper extreme. And if you go 110/70, it's associated with less all-cause mortality. Yeah, go ahead.
And Dr. Greger talks about that in his book too. And there's the kind of like Western doctors had previously believed that your blood pressure just increases as you age, but what they found was that communities in like rural China where they were eating like really high plants, like as part of their total dietary intake, they had the same like 110/70 all throughout their lives. So they could test people in their like teens, they could test people in their 20s, all the way up into like 70s, 80s, and people still had the pretty much that same blood pressure. So it's totally not age dependent.
Yeah, and I think even if you go 100/60, that might be better than 120/80. So they're both equal distance from 110/70, but that doesn't mean that 120/80 is just as good as 100/60. So it's a little bit better to be on the low end. And with the universal trend being that blood pressure increases, I wouldn't be comfortable at 120/80.
Yeah.
Don't be satisfied with that.
Yeah.
Add more fiber to the diet to drop that a little bit.
Yep. How about you, Logan? Do you know any kind of blood markers like that? Cholesterol or blood pressure?
I took my cholesterol. I had my cholesterol checked and all my vitamins and minerals checked, and they were all fine. But I never checked them previous to going vegan, so I couldn't compare. And then also I never really checked my blood pressure or anything like that. But I did remember the two myths that I was going to mention briefly. So one of them is people always say like sugar will make you hyper, and that drives me insane because that's not true. And then another one is that people always relate MSG to Chinese food, when MSG is literally in like so many fast food places that these people are eating at all the time. Like they're eating at like say like Chick-fil-A or Burger King or whatever, all these places that are putting MSG all in their burgers and everything. And they're eating the burger and then they're going, I don't want to get Chinese food because it's got too much MSG. And it's like they haven't even looked it up. And there's like tons of fast food places that have MSG besides Chinese food. And a lot of the times the Chinese food places don't have MSG. So that drives me nuts too.
Very interesting.
But, yeah.
All right, moving on. We got number 4, your digestion will improve. That was something you hit on, Chris. I don't really know that I would say that I improved, but I think I was already eating what I would have normally at that time called a healthy omnivorous diet to begin with. So before I went vegan, I was already eating very heavily plant based anyway. Like I was probably eating meat maybe 2-3 times a week, and then I was still eating lots of dairy and eggs obviously, but I mean I was eating a lot of plants already. So like I never had problems like going to do number two or anything like that. I didn't notice any real difference. I probably pooped more than I did than before going vegan, but I never really had a problem or not like a noticeable like change in the sense that like I didn't notice it being like, oh, that's a lot better. But I think a lot of people do mention this, especially if you're not used to eating a lot of plants, and then you all of a sudden just eat plants. Like I would imagine that's a huge change for a lot of people.
Well, put it this way: you'd notice a difference if you replaced that meat with, let's say, something that's digested quite differently, not just vegan burrito, but let's say if you swapped out the meat for straight up blueberries and papaya, you would probably notice a big difference between them because of those really contrasting, opposing digestive processes at work. I can pretty much, whereas before I had typically had a book by my toilet, now it's not as long a process. It's so regular and predictable. You don't have those rogue stools and constipation, defecation, urgency on a high fiber diet. Pretty much you can count on, if you have a big plant meal, that's going to trigger peristalsis and bowel movement sometime, not too long. But I can, like the way I go about it now, and any vegan can, if you have multiple small meals, there won't be the defecation urgency. It's almost like you can plan when you're going to go to the bathroom next, just based on how you choose to eat. You didn't have those choices with meat. You didn't have that reliable peristalsis that was triggered by meat in the same way. And with a longer transit, it wasn't that predictable.
Yeah.
And much more strenuous without fiber.
And that kind of like I don't know if you guys had seen the Joe Rogan thing when he was talking about the carnivore diet and he was like running to the bathroom and all this kind of stuff. I mean that's insane. I would think like the way he had like diarrhea through that month of whatever being on the carnivore diet, like that would be something that would bring me to a doctor. You know what I mean? Like I would think that that's scary and abnormal to have diarrhea for weeks on end. Like I don't know why somebody would view that and think that that's normal.
Yeah, that'd be your first clue. You're not on the right track.
Yeah, you're not eating an appropriate like diet for your body. But anyway, all right. Next one, you'll feel fuller longer. I don't know that I necessarily agree with this. I think it really can depend on what you're eating. If I'm eating kind of like more processed foods and things that are more calorically dense, I might not agree with it. But like if you're eating, like really kind of like bulky stuff, but it doesn't have a lot of calories, like I definitely can feel pretty hungry pretty quick. So like I could eat like a huge salad with like even like tomatoes, fruits, whatever. Like sometimes I put like grapes and or tangerine slices or something into like a big huge salad. I'll add some seeds, but like it's a big amount, but I'll still feel pretty hungry after. So it depends, I think, for me on what I'm eating. If I have a big bowl of oatmeal, like that'll fill me up for a long time.
Yeah, I thought they were saying you'll feel full longer on a meat-based diet because you will not feel full longer on a high-fiber diet or plant diet. But the fiber will help to a degree to add bulk, but you'd have to eat more quantity. You feel full longer with a meat diet. Yeah, that's called constipation when you take it to the next level, and that's typically what goes on.
Yeah.
You feel full because you're constipated. You're not digesting; it's just sitting in your gut, and it makes you feel lethargic too.
See, what they're saying here is that so by eating a fiber-rich diet, you'll also help curb cravings, which can help with weight management. I would agree with that. And then they say when you eat a vegan or vegetarian diet, you're more likely to include vegetarian sources of protein such as pulses, chickpeas, black peas, and lentils. So again, this is what I'm saying. Like if you eat like a big bowl of rice and beans, like that will definitely help keep you feeling pretty satiated for a long time. But if you're just eating like, I don't know, like, a banana and, I don't know, strawberry kind of smoothie or something, like that won't fill me up for long. Like, I don't know. I think it just
Yeah.
depends. But if you're eating like lentils, yeah, that'll definitely keep you feeling satiated for a while. All right, next one. Inflammation in your body will decrease. I would absolutely second this one. Again, like I said, from running and workouts and stuff, like I recover way faster. I just feel definitely better. Like I would absolutely second this one.
Yep.
Then the last one is your mood and mental cognition may be enhanced. I think the mood we kind of talked about a little bit in the beginning, right? When we said that you'll feel better. I think just some of that is like your conscience, and you feel like you're doing something that's good for you, good for your health, good for the animals, good for the planet. So I think that kind of goes a long way to making your mental state be better, your mood be better. Mental cognition, I mean, I don't know. Like I don't feel more alert or anything, but maybe the food coma thing, that could be something that's legit. If you're not feeling like you just ate a big meal and then you need to go to sleep.
Yeah, like because I'm sleeping better, I'm a little more mentally alert. But I don't think I know there's a direct correlation between what I'm eating and how I feel. I don't think it's maybe not so much a primary factor, but it might be secondary to better sleep because I've got better breathing without the dairy and the meat.
Yeah, the sleep is a huge thing. I actually have been kind of slacking on on reading the whole thing, but one of my friends sent me an ebook. I can't even remember who wrote it, but if you guys are curious, I'll look it up and I'll send it over. But it's basically this like sleep expert guy, and he has all these studies to back up all his claims, and he's got a whole book talking about the importance of sleep and just really hammering home the point that like you really do need enough sleep, and your cognitive ability really severely declines when you're not getting enough. So that would absolutely be really important. And I think if you're stressed out and you reduce a lot of your stress and then you're able to sleep, then you're really kind of doing a multiple like angle attack and improving your health overall and your mental mood.
Word up. Bab
Nice.
sent you a super chat for $473. And she says, "Hi all, happy lockdown from the
I think that was
UJ."
supposed to be, I was think that should be UK, but a typo. But thank you, Bev.
Oh,
That's
okay.
really awesome.
Sending hugs.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to comment on the food thing because about digestion. So when I was eating high amounts of meat, like for probably 5-6 years before I went vegan, maybe 4, I was on like high meat diet for lifting weights, and I definitely took longer sitting on the toilet for sure. Like there's absolutely no comparison, because like before you go lift weights, you want to have like an empty system so you feel good and whatever, or before you go exercise, right? You don't want to just like hold it in or whatever, right? But then it's hard because you just ate, so much meat that you're sitting there forever, and then it's time to go squat, and then your legs are numb, right? So It's like it's very inconvenient. And then I also felt gassier too then when I was working out, even after sitting there for an hour or whatever it was, half an hour after, I'd still feel like bloated when I'd go work out. That doesn't happen now, but also like to what Chris is talking about, I do notice a big difference right now when I eat cooked vegan food and fruits. Like it's definitely easier if you eat fruits or even raw vegetables like carrots and stuff like that. It's definitely easier the next morning, and it's better that way. And at the start of the quarantine, I couldn't get a lot of fresh fruits, and I noticed there was a big difference to the mornings I had. But yeah. And then you were talking about the ways of eating. Like when I was lifting weights, I would just always be stuffing myself throughout the whole day, like just eating tons and tons of food, like meat and it was mostly meat. But then when I tried to lose weight on that diet, it was like so hard because like meat's so like calorically dense that like I basically have to eat a little bit of meat and then like starve myself, right? And then to get my protein in, and then I'd just be starving myself, feeling hungry, and then I went from like 200 pounds down to like 160, and then that's when I was like, well, I'm gonna go vegetarian, because then I could eat like more stuff. Like I realized, oh, if I eat just like a huge salad, it's like way more. It'll fill my gut
Yeah.
up. It's not going to be that much calories. And then that's how I was able to maintain the 160 body weight, because I knew if I started eating meat again, then I just put it all back on and I'd probably go right back up to like 180 or whatever, right? And then now, ever since then, my eating is like I just wake up, I have a coffee, and then I'll have like 2 or 3 little snacks throughout the day. And then at nighttime, I'll just one meal a day with just some giant, pot of like all these vegetables and stuff like that. And I'll just like, people will go, how do you eat all that? And I'll go, well, this is like my one gigantic meal of the day. You probably already ate all this during your day, And I don't feel hungry though. That's just the way I eat.
So you didn't enjoy having a big fillet of fish right before you did squats as opposed to a strawberry smoothie? You felt more comfortable with the smoothie than having some fried catfish fillet or something before you did squats?
Does anybody even like the fish fillet? I don't think anybody. I don't even know why they sell those things. Right? Like, what is that? Is it even fish? Like, it's just a fried square with like, snot on top. Yeah.
One thing about the digestion that I would say is kind of similar to what you experienced, Logan, but it's related to running. When I was running and eating meat still, like I would really have to watch what I ate before I went on a long run, especially. Like a short run wouldn't really bother me as much, but like if I was going out for a long run, and I'm talking like, over 10 miles, like, 15 miles, 18 miles, stuff like that, I would have to really carefully plan like what I was going to eat, because like I wouldn't be able to do like sausage and eggs for breakfast or something, because even if I was running at like 12 o'clock I would be like burping that up. I would just have like horrible I don't know, like indigestion. Like I would just get like heartburn, even from stuff that I ate like 2-3 hours before. Now,
I'm gonna
like I could eat like a big bowl of oatmeal with like bananas, apples, raisins, whatever, and I could go running 20 minutes later and I feel completely fine, like no problem.
I would take like an educated guess here, and Chris, maybe you know something about this, but that's like probably an adaptation thing, because like if you are going out foraging or looking for things, like looking for food, right? You mostly have an empty stomach, so like if you're hungry, you're gonna go out and be moving and looking for food. Why would somebody fill up their stomach and then be like, well, I'm gonna just go exercise for 2 hours or whatever? Like, there's no need for a human being to be like, I'm doing extensive have extensive energy output to go get food when I'm already full. It doesn't even make sense to do that. So like, of course your body's going to be like, and plus it's digesting. You need a time for digesting, and then you need a time for foraging, using your energy and stuff like that. So
yeah, and that'd be about 3 hours on the average American meal. But with fruit, you could switch gears more quickly. It's digested more effectively, more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to want to be in that rest and digest. It's stimulating the parasympathetic digestive system after eating. And then on the other end, how often do you really feel like having a big fat steak after an 18-mile run? Who's going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
That's not the first thing. You're all hot and you come back and you're going to have a big steak. Not if you really did a grueling run. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not going to digest that easily in that case either.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris, because I think after every run that I did, the first thing that I would always go for is I would go for like a peanut butter and banana sandwich. That was like my go-to like thing after a big run. And then later on, like I would get a shower, I'd get cleaned up, get rest, stretching, whatever, and then I would eat some big meal. But
okay, so, the moral of the story is not being active if you do decide to consume a lot of meat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you're definitely like your taste's going to change on how far you run too. So at the first couple hours, you're going to want sweet stuff, and then afterwards you're going to get salt depleted, so you will start craving salty food. So it just really depends on how far you ran too. Like then it'll change from sweet to salty. And I've heard like Olympic running coaches and stuff talk about like you shouldn't eat giant meals like before a race. Like if you're gonna eat anything, make it like something like a small piece of fruit, like an hour before or something like that. Like you don't want to eat. People think like, oh, I'm running a marathon, so I better get all these calories in my system, or I better drink all this water, and then you just bloat yourself and you screw up your whole run. You know.
Yep. Yep. Cool. All right. Oh, and the last thing, that was it. Yeah, the food pyramid thing was the last thing I'd open. Cool. Let me switch back the view here.
I think Chris had something there. What'd you share there, Chris?
Did I?
It was the
Yeah,
food
you
pyramid
did.
thing.
Oh, okay. I see.
The healthy food pyramid. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Now I can hopefully get everybody to see me again. And I can hopefully go back to the chats. I don't know what you guys have been talking about. Ooh, there's a lot of chats. Oh man. I'll have to read through them later. I'm not gonna get through these tonight.
Here's something
Leon's
interesting that
on,
happened.
Nikki's on. Lots of people are on. Hey, welcome.
You guys hear about that soccer player who got canceled because of his wife?
No, what happened?
So there's like some soccer player or football, if you're a weirdo. His wife, I guess on some kind of blog post or something, was saying like, kill all the protesters because they're all violent and they're all a bunch of pigs and all this stuff, right?
Wow.
And then, so the media was like, oh, that's this guy's wife. We got to cancel him or whatever. You got to get, and they all went after him. And then he said, no, I don't agree with anything she said. And she should take that down. And was like, he was saying, I basically have the opposite views of what she has. And they fired him from his soccer team. Like they kicked him off the team. Anyways, even though he said, I don't agree with anything she said, they still fired him. So I thought that was crazy. What is the world coming to?
Yeah, I mean, I could kind of see either side of that because, like, as a business, like, the business is only going to care, like, how it reflects on their business. They don't care.
Yeah.
Like, they don't care one way or the other. If they made more money by being racist, like, they probably would do it. Like, honestly, I have a very negative view of most businesses. But when they see that impacts their bottom line, they're going to just fire the guy regardless of what. It's not about whether or not he's right or wrong or whatever. It's just more like they're not going to put up with his bad publicity.
Yeah, and that's kind of like where the NFL was coming from originally. They're just like, we don't want to have anything to do with politics. We're a sports team, that now we're talking about politics, so they're like, you guys got to stop this kneeling stuff because all they cared about is getting money. Like, they don't care about politics, right? And then now they've kind of been forced to say sorry because everybody's like, you guys need to apologize. You need to apologize. And then they're like, okay, sorry. And they're like, yay, we got them to say sorry. It's like, okay. Like, what do they care? They're just a business,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if anything, all of those protests from the sports teams and the various sympathetic sports teams like basketball and other kind of sports that it went to, I think those had a very positive effect. I think now people are getting more upset when they see these cases of police brutality, and there's a lot more people who are realizing that racism is still a huge problem in many parts of the world, not just in the U.S., but lots of other places too. And I think it just like fosters more dialogue, and more people are aware of it, and more people are aware of kind of these like, I don't know, like quiet forms of racism or things that aren't as obvious. So I think it's, my hat's off to Colin Kaepernick and the other people who supported him. He's a vegan too. I don't know if you guys know that, but like,
Didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a vegan. Yep. And I've seen some stuff when he talks about that in interviews and things like that, because he said he saw the same kind of oppression that he was protesting against for people of color all over, and he was saying, it's like it's just not right to do that same kind of oppression to the animals. So
that's good.
So he's noted for the peaceful form of protest, the kneeling.
Yes.
Yep. So he's not the one doing taking a dump on top of police cars.
No, I don't know that he's ever done something like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Checking.
Yeah.
Vegans tend to have a little more peaceful protests.
Yeah. No, he's legit. I mean, he's really, I think, a very good, like, spokesperson and a role model. I think everything I've seen about him makes me think that he's a very upstanding individual. I really like the guy.
Yeah, at least he's consistent with his morals there. The only criticism people really have for him is that he was like the star quarterback or whatever. Is he a quarterback?
He
I don't know
was.
what. Yeah, so he was like the star, right? And then as soon as he got put on like second string or whatever it was, and he wasn't the star anymore, that's when he started kneeling and doing the stuff. So that's the only criticism people have is like, well, you didn't do it when you were popular because you're making all this money, and as soon as you were out of there, now all of a sudden you want to protest. Like, but it's still, yeah, it's still not really a good argument. But
No, he was. They didn't give him much a chance. He was unpopular at the time. No team wanted the bad publicity, so they were not even giving him a chance to be on the team. So while he was in his prime, he really wasn't. He wasn't a starter quarterback for anybody. He was just unemployed. They didn't give him a chance.
Yeah, I don't watch football. That's just what I heard from the weirdos out there.
I don't know the timelines too well either, but I kind of tend to think I think Chris is right. Like he's been consistent in his morals and like his stance, I think, the whole time. So I hadn't heard that he was doing it as a publicity stunt or anything like that. If anything, I think he would have stood to make a lot more money if he just kind of towed the line and just shut up and stopped doing what he was doing.
Yeah, if it had done what Drew Brees did and agreed with President Trump and encouraged people not to kneel, he'd still be on the team.
If you look at like his social media posts too, I mean he's been there like the whole time for things like standing up against police brutality and just all sorts of like civil rights issues, everything. Like his posts are excellent. He's really good.
Yeah.
Wow.
One time when I was in high school, I think it was high school or maybe college, I was driving down the street with my friend, and I had a bunch of beers, and he was driving, so he didn't. And then I thought I saw this girl that I knew out the window, so I rolled down the window and I started yelling. But of course I was drunk, and I was like, ah, whatever, right? So it looked probably kind of weird. And then this police officer pulled me over in his normal car with his street clothes, whipped out his badge, and then started yelling at me saying, "That's my daughter, and I'm gonna beat you up," and all this stuff, right? And he's like, get out of the car and I'll fight you and all this crazy stuff, right? So that to me is like, I've seen how like police officers can act like not like how they're supposed to. I know I was, what I was doing wasn't even illegal. I'm just being an idiot, right? And it just seems like, and then he was also like, I'm a police officer, and using that to like, threaten me and stuff. So and I'm not black, so I'm saying some things like that are like over the line is like not having to do with racism. Some of it is, but some of it is just cops being shitty, like shitty cops, And he's a perfect example of one. And yeah, my friend knew him too. He's like, I know that guy. He lives down the street from me. This is his name or whatever.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a fan of police in general. I know that there's obviously some that are really great, wonderful people, and they're doing it for the right reasons and all this kind of stuff, and they really are there for serving and protecting the people and whatever. But just in general, as like a broad stroke, yeah, I'm not a fan of police. I think the people that I know that I've interacted with, like what I see is that I think a lot of people become police officers because they were bullies in school and they like getting off on that power trip and they just want to, I don't know, just keep going on that kind of, like, I got a badge, I can tell you what to do, and
yeah, I've seen them like pull people over and just like rip their cars apart looking for stuff for like no reason, and they're like, what made you think that this person has anything in their car that you're just tearing their car apart? And then they just leave it that way and they leave, and you're like, oh, okay, I gotta put this all back together now. Like, gotta put everything back in my trunk and all, I don't know. Some of the stuff is like pretty crazy. But all that stuff that I saw too, like when I was younger, it was like way before cell phones, so nobody could record anything, right? You could do whatever you want back then. So at least now there's more accountability, and they're probably less likely to do stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think the police are more aware of the fact that people are recording them too, which is why I think they also get really violent and upset when you start recording them. They don't like it because they know that it can reflect poorly on them.
I just saw a video on Facebook where there was a white guy who was driving Uber. So he's an Uber driver. The police pulled him over, and he's just in his street clothes, and he's just in a kind of a crappy car. And this guy's really harassing him and being rude to him just because he thinks he's just some sort of shitty Uber driver or something, right? Even though Uber driver is a fine job, he was saying, you can't record me with your phone. It's against the law. And the guy was like, well, what law is that? And the guy, he's like, tell me which law it is, name it. And the guy, he's like, I don't have to. And he's like, well, it must be a new law. And then he's like, 'cause I'm an attorney. And then the cop was like, well, no, you're just some Uber driver. And he's laughing at him. And then the other cop came up and he's like, hey, I recognize you. You're from courtroom 3 or whatever, right? He's like, yeah, I told you, dude. I'm just driving Uber for extra cash or something to do or whatever, right? But this one cop was just lying to him, saying that there's all these laws and that because he knew the other guy didn't know the laws because he's just an Uber driver and just being rude to him. And then as soon as he found out he's an attorney, he just shut his mouth and changed all his story about everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Well, I mean, there's just so many examples of seeing bad police behavior, just all over. I mean, from them lying, from them abusing the search warrants or any. I mean, no search warrants and just starting random. I mean, it's just crazy, and I just think it's insane that we live in a world where there is some poor person like George Floyd. Seemingly every week there's somebody that gets shot, killed, arrested, unjustly, whatever. I didn't even watch the video, but just recently I saw Jimmy Dore had a video titled where it was I think it was black shop owners flag down police for help and then get arrested or something like that. And it's they just, I don't know, man. It's insane, how black people are still treated to this day, in the U.S. It's insane. I just can't believe it.
There's a person in your comment section basically just trying to insult me and then says, Logan's too sensitive. He'd block this if he could. I don't troll. But then you look at all the comments and they're just insulting me. So it's that's obviously why you got blocked on my channel.
Why would you block him?
I don't know. I don't know why I'd block somebody who just... They said I have white privilege and all this stuff. Why are you telling me that I have white privilege? What did I do to deserve that? It's just telling me that I'm wearing a shirt or something. Why are you just saying that?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, every white person does have white privilege, and whether you want it or not, you have it. And I think that's our responsibility to actually do something about it and help people.
Yeah, that's very true, right? So everybody has some sort of privilege, though, right? But because this is in the news, that's the only one being talked about, right? But I'm sure this person has all sorts of privileges, right? But then what is because you are privileged, what do you need to do about it? Now, if there's laws that are immoral, yeah, we should change immoral laws so everything's equal. But I can just mind my own business, not hurt anybody, not help anybody, and I'm just being amoral. There's nothing wrong with that either. I don't really have to do anything. I could help change laws. I'm not going to vote for crappy, unequal laws on purpose. I would never do that. But, I don't know.
Well, I think this kind of goes back to the discussion around veganism as well, because a lot of times people say just by being vegan, you're not actually doing anything. You just simply stop supporting the oppression yourself. So in the case of you walking by and seeing somebody beating a dog, veganism is you just not joining them and beating the dog too. But you're not actually going and stopping the person from beating the dog. So, I mean, I think to some extent that's true, because what you do by being vegan is you stop supporting that stuff with your purchase. So you don't go to the store, you don't buy it anymore, you don't wear it, you don't, whatever, go to the zoo, you don't go to the circus. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing something to actually go and stop it. And then if you start campaigning or start convincing other people or getting laws passed or whatever, then you're actually doing something. But again, I don't think that's immoral for you to not do any action beyond just at least stop. That's why they call it the moral baseline, because that doesn't mean that you're a good person. It just means that you stop being a really shitty person. Like,
yeah.
that's
So I'm
kind
just
of
a person. But if everybody was just a person, then there'd be no problem, right?
Yeah. And
That's
but
the
you
point.
have no moral obligation to stop other people. I guess that's
So if I'm just
it's
being
nice
amoral,
if you
and somebody is in the comments insulting me, they're the only person being immoral, realistically. Because I'm not insulting them, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we should all be civil with each other. I didn't finish watching it, but I started watching the foot soldier video on antinatalism, and then I saw, because I kind of saw it out of order. I saw the response from the guy. He was on your channel, Logan. The what is the guy's name? Shoot, he did a response video to one of my videos too. Can't remember his name.
Zohar?
No,
Zohar,
no, he's got like red hair.
Oh, Human Dance?
No. He's got like red hair, long red hair. I can't remember the guy's name.
Oh, No Joy in Life?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. No Joy in Life.
I think he wants to be called a girl or something. I seen him dress up like a girl, so maybe he goes by her.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay. I wouldn't want to say that incorrectly. Then so if you're watching, that was not meant to be offensive. So anyway, so whoever that person is, he or she or whatever, like did a response video to Foot Soldier and was just like really kind of like, you know, name calling and saying all this stuff, and Foot Soldier was just replying like, look, there's no need for, you know, getting kind of upset, and like it's a philosophical discussion and just talking about like some, you know, ideas. Like there's no reason to name call anybody. So that's my take on it. I always try to be polite to everybody. We can disagree on lots of stuff, but we don't have to be uncivil to each other.
Yeah, exactly. Somehow Chris got dragged into this too, and now Chris is dumb too. They say you're the only educated one, CO. So me and Chris are dumbasses.
Okay, Raven, I'm not sure like what kind of beef you guys have, but I mean, I don't know. I think like let's try to keep it civil. Like I don't know. I enjoy talking to both of these guys, so I don't know.
I don't even know what I did. I don't even know who he is.
Well, it's because you know me, so now you.
I've never even talked to him before, and so I'm at fault for something.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so Raven's
But yeah,
upset with your video yesterday. You don't see the excuses to justify white privilege. Then you're part of the problem.
But he won't explain his position, though. He was invited to explain his position, and he keeps complaining about being censored. And then when he gets the opportunity to support his own claim, he refuses to do it. He just keeps typing in caps.
Uh-huh.
I don't even remember saying anything about white privilege yesterday. I don't even think I really talked about it. Like I just talked about, maybe I talked about like the amoral thing, but that's about it. I didn't really say, but realistically, everybody's privileged in some sort of manner over somebody else. Like I have legs where other people don't have working legs. I mean, I have, eyeballs and some people can't see. Like there's all sorts of privilege that you have that other people don't. And you can't basically help every single person who's less privileged than you. You only have so much time and space. And realistically, I don't even know, like I'm from Canada. Like I don't even know any black people. Right? It's not, over here we have natives and white people. So, I mean, there's a lot of East Indian people and Asians that come here for school. But that's about it. So, like, you're telling me to deal with another country's problem? Like, I got a lot of problems over here, you know? I got other things, and I am trying to help in all sorts of ways that I can. So to say that I'm not helping with one certain thing when there's all these different forms of privilege and things that I could be helping with, it's like, well, you're not helping with 97,000 other things too. So what are we arguing about here?
Yeah, again, I don't know what kind of, beef you might have there, Raven, but like, I don't know. I think one thing that maybe is what you're thinking of or whatever is something that I get upset with when I see people try to like marginalize or trivialize the whole Black lives movement, is that like they try to say like, well, all lives matter or whatever. Like, um, yes, they do, and the whole point is that in the U.S. especially, but I mean other areas of the world too, like people are still very, very grossly discriminated against based on the color of their skin, and I think a lot of people who are kind of like racist and kind of um, quietly enjoying, the kind of like plight of people of color like in the U.S. and seeing protesters getting beaten up or whatever, like they love to kind of like poke fun at this and just say like, well, look, they're all lives should matter and all this kind of stuff, and they love kind of trying to take this upper whatever you call it the high road of like, oh well, if they weren't looting or something, then this, that, and the other, and things would change. But if you look like in any thing in history, like the things that get things changed is sometimes the radical stuff. And I'm not saying that it's a good idea to loot or do anything violent. I'm definitely for peaceful protests. But what I see in the news, and I've had to really kind of turn it off recently, is that the peaceful protesters are being treated terribly. People are just getting sprayed, beaten, shot with, tear gas and, paint and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's insane. Like,
Yeah.
I
Well, I
don't
mean,
support any of that. Like,
Yeah. So here's like a kind of an argument against that, just to play devil's advocate. So if I have so say that everybody on the entire Earth, like we're all destroying the Earth and there's negative things going on. If I just eradicate everybody on Earth except for myself, because I know I'm not going to do anything bad to animals or anything, I'm just going to hang out under a tree or something, and I just kill everybody, I could say that the world is there more peaceful because of my violent actions. And so the outcome was good, and now it's more peaceful because all the violence and everything stopped because I killed everybody. But that doesn't mean that I should have done that. They just go kill everybody, and that's the same thing with the riots. Just because you can have a positive outcome from going to kill people and burn things and do all this stuff doesn't mean you should have done that.
well, I don't think the official movements are encouraging rioting. I view it as
I'm
a
not
very
saying
distinct thing of even like congregating illegally like against a curfew order. I view that as completely different. If you're peaceful and you're just breaking curfew to do civil disobedience and get arrested for breaking the law, I view that as completely different than smashing a window and just taking a pair of shoes or something from a store. And also there are a lot of people who, I mean, in my mind, probably rightfully so, are even suggesting or trying to show that a lot of the people who are doing the looting and stuff are sometimes maybe even paid actors or whatever. Like I wouldn't put it past it. I mean, there have been many instances where governments will do stuff like that, and I certainly don't put it past this administration or any other administration for that matter in the U.S. to do that as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if those are sometimes paid actors doing this stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't say paid actors, because people has actually got killed, right? There's sort of lots of people killed and hospitalized. Like a lady threw a Molotov cocktail into a cop car when 4 cops were sitting in there. There's all sorts of crazy stuff that are happening. Videos with dudes with chainsaws, and I saw a video with all these white kids beating up a black police officer, which I thought, well, this is really against the whole message right here, which is crazy. But yeah, like I wasn't saying like that's what you should be doing or that's a good thing that you think they should be doing. I agree that they should be, protesting if that's what they want to do, but just not make them violent, because there's no reason to hurt people. And you might think, oh well, there might be a good outcome if we hurt people, but you can say that for anything. You go hurt people.
I don't think that's what people are saying who are like actually like official spokespeople for any of these kind of causes.
No, but there is people saying that though. There is people on the internet going, this is what needs to happen, is like this type of stuff. Like the violence is fine because it's going to bring a better outcome and whatever. There is people obviously saying.
I wouldn't say that, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of the violence has started from the police, and people are just venting their frustration because they just feel like they have no other recourse, like they have no other thing that they can do. Chris, I kind of agree. Raven, do you want to jump on? Do you want to talk? Like, I don't know.
No.
No?
Trolls never want to talk. Trolls never want to
Well,
talk.
I'm happy to have you on if you want. I'll send you a link.
No.
Send me an email.
This is I guarantee this same conversation already happened on my channel. Like, this is what always happens is people troll in the comments. I got no time for it, so I just say, you want to come on and chat? They say no, and then I block them because there's no point in just having someone being negative if they don't even want to express their views in a civil conversation, because then they're just trolling. No profile picture, no videos. Like, you're obviously a troll.
Right. So Raven's dissociated, and he's not taking the opportunity to calmly, maturely explain his position. He does have no intention of doing that, obviously.
I've
Ball's in
never
your
had
court.
any kind of problems with Raven, so I obviously have kind of like a very neutral stance on this. I don't know exactly what the problem is, but happy to have you on. So I can
Probably
send you the link.
your politics probably align with hers or his, and that's why, right? As soon as you say something somebody doesn't agree
politicians.
with,
I don't like
whatever it
politicians.
is, yeah.
I don't like any politician.
But that's the thing in life. People are going to have different viewpoints. So the best thing to do is have a civil conversation. Basically is what this whole protest and everything should be about, is like encouraging conversations. But exactly what this person is saying, that, you're a piece of garbage or whatever they're saying, you're dumb, you're this. I'm trying to have a civil conversation. They don't want to do it. So like, who's really the one being, a jerk here?